your daily election 2023 update. This is Election Fix, powered by Newstalk ZB.
Kia ora, I'm Raylene Ramsay. This is Election Fix for Monday, the 25th of September. Today, Newstalk ZB's chief political reporter Aaron Darman will talk us through the worst kept secret in politics, that Chris Luxon will work with Winston Peters if he has to. And political editor Jason Walls has been out on the campaign trail with Chris Hipkins in New Plymouth.
Election Fix headlines.
Winston Peters didn't know Chris Luxon would announce he'd work with New Zealand First, but didn't expect him to tell him. Luxon's confirmed he'd work with the party if necessary, but his strong preference is a two-party National ACT coalition. Peter says he's disappointed the conversations become about ruling people in or out.
The most difficult thing on election night is you look at the circumstances, you look at the numbers, and you say to yourself, I'm going to have to put everything I ever think, and my caucus will as well, all my prejudices and all my feelings aside. Why? Because it's called democracy.
Meanwhile, Chris Luxon says he'd comfortably handle a three-party coalition.
I've led large organisations and large executive teams. I think you've seen the work that I've done with the National Party over the last 18 months to make it out of its era of dysfunction into a very strong and fashioned team.
Labour is releasing its first ever climate manifesto. It's promising an additional $300 million for green investment finance, putting the total commitment up to $1 billion. Leader Chris Hipkins says renewable energy will play a massive role.
For 3 years in a row, we've been reducing New Zealand's emissions, and we want to continue to accelerate our progress in that regard.
And ACT's leader is clarifying the party's welfare policy, insisting no beneficiary will be left starving. The plan targets benefit fraud and dependency and means people with drug addictions could risk losing the benefit if they don't engage in services or look for work. David Seymour says people won't lose everything, but may be subject to electronic income management, which pays rent, utilities and groceries first.
Election Fix, everything you need to know from the campaign trail. Newstalk ZB.
Now to our reporters on the campaign trail. And Newstalk ZB's chief political reporter Aaron Darman is with us. Aaron, Luxon has ruled in Winston Peters, so has he been selling his newfound position to the masses?
Well, Raylene, I'm on the road as we speak, and it has been a long road to get to today for Chris Luxon. Like you say, finally confirming he will work with Winston and New Zealand First, but only if he has to. It is an ending to months of speculation, those half answers we've become accustomed to. So, like you say, was he out there selling it in his stump speeches, telling Kiwis, hey, I'll work with Winston and David Seymour. I'm a leader from the top drawer. I can manage that. No, he wasn't. In fact, I don't think he mentioned it once from what I at any of his events today. But, of course, the questions in the media stand up. I took it upon myself, and a couple of us reporters did that, to ask some of the National Party supporters at the public meeting to give their views on the move, on the decision. And the sentiment was, well, Chris Luxon can manage that. He's a good leader. But there were a couple that said to me, Winston is a troublemaker, so I think they'd rather do without New Zealand First in government.
And he's been on a few election pit stops around Waikato today. What was the response?
Yeah, well, this is a guy that wants to be Prime Minister. That means jumping in big blue tractors. It means schmoozing at public meetings. It means handshakes, walkabouts from malls to a Huntley shopping strip. And so on that strip, he dropped into a bookshop, hit hard by ram raids, a clothes store that's been open for 118 years, recently hit by crime, and a mini supermarket called Fruit King, also repeatedly ram-raided. And the theme was clearly law and order. The visit clearly intended to highlight in big, bold, metaphorical lettering, this is another street of lawlessness and crime. So, Raylene, you can imagine our shock and horror when Chris Luxon was driven away in his Mercedes at the end of the route and left the media pack and everyone else, including police, to walk back up this street of lawlessness all by ourselves. I joke, of course, and to be fair, who would have jumped into a personal gleaming silver Mercedes? I'm fair to say I am getting my step count well and truly up this election campaign.
Well, I'm glad you're safe. Thank you, Aaron.
Election Fix.
And political editor Jason Walls is with us. Jason, the Labour leader, is on the hustings in New Plymouth. What's he been up to?
Indeed. Well, he hasn't been leaving the press pack in questionable places. And Aaron, if you're listening to this, I hope you're okay. I feel like I'm not doing my due diligence as a political editor with that one. But no, Chris Hipkins has been on the hustings here in New Plymouth. He's been at a sausage sizzle. He's been out meeting supporters. He's even been to an art gallery. But as has become a bit commonplace for the Prime Minister, he's not really meeting with people at the coalface, people on the ground, more secure locations of various different businesses and things like that. So he really hasn't hit the campaign quite running like Christopher Luxon has. But hey, if it means we're not getting dropped off at dodgy parts of town, I'm okay.
So what's his reaction been to Chris Luxon's call to rule in Winston?
Well, his reaction has been the same as pretty much everybody's reaction is, yeah, and what? We already knew it was coming. The fact that he wouldn't say either way was basically a yes from the very start. But he is using this whole coalition of chaos line against the Labour leader, saying that it's going to be a coalition of chaos. In fact, what he called it was a three-headed monster with New Zealand First and ACT and the National Party. So obviously, and as expected, not being particularly kind to the opposition leader here, but also not overly surprised at the comments and the admission either.
Many thanks, Jason.
Election Fix, powered by Newstalk ZB.
And that is Election Fix for Monday, the 25th of September. Join us again tomorrow to get the latest update on everything from the campaign trail from the Newstalk ZB newsroom. In the meantime, you can head to newstalkzb.co.nz/election 2023 for all your political news and opinion. I'm Raylene Ramsay. We'll see you tomorrow.